Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brand Central podcast. I'm Mark Hayes. I'm your host for this premiere episode. Joining us today is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Brock Ganeles. He's the CEO of Nitetables Inc. And he started his own business and became infatuated with entrepreneurship after a 16-year stellar, I might add, Wall Street career. Brock, thanks so much for joining us from upstate New York. What a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Mark, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always a pleasure. And full disclosure, Brock and I go way back. We've probably known each other 40 years, back to the early 80s. And we were basketball teammates, won a championship, did our thing up in northern Westchester County. And we even made it to County Center. And so you folks from that area, from that part of the world, will know that that is the mecca of Westchester basketball.
Oh, the good old days.
Yes, indeed.
One of the things I really miss about being in isolation is no more basketball.
I know, that's the hard part. I've been watching pre-recorded games or replays just to pass the time. But let's get into what you've been doing. First of all, you're the CEO of Nitetables Inc., a digital concierge, a great concept. You've been employing young people, folks with flexible schedules, and giving people an opportunity to have their own franchise. Tell me a little bit about where the idea came from.
So Nitetables Inc. actually was founded by a younger guy in New York. I bumped him, Adam also, we bumped into him within weeks of his coming up with this idea. I started as an initial investor. And when he wanted to move on to something else, at that point, I had left Wall Street. I had the time, the energy, the initiative, and I thought it could and should work. So a little over 8 years ago, I took over running the company, which is an online reservation platform for nightlife, night out activities, which
Right.
Of course is one of the first things that has gone by the wayside here with, the shutdown, particularly in New York City.
Right.
For that business, 3 years ago, we started a division called Nitetables Experiences, and we started hosting pub crawls, night outs, and really thematic speakeasy, history, cultural type tours focused on the travel industry. So we made a shift in focus to the travel industry just before the travel industry, of course, has been locked down and shut down. So I like to say that Nitetables business is suspended for the near term. I hope, I think we can come out of it and rebuild, but certainly there is pretty much nothing to do on that front right now.
Right. So let's talk about the transition a little bit. A lot of us, as we start to age, we begin to transition. You didn't necessarily have to transition from Wall Street. I mean, a great career, president of brokerage at Merriman Capital, a founder at Tidwell Partners, Credit Suisse. I mean, you've got some great gigs on your resume. What took you away from Wall Street?
I don't know. I did it for 16 years. My ex-colleagues are kind of always calling me, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? They finally stopped maybe after year 6, 7, 8. I still, once in a while, they ask if I have the itch to come back.
Right.
I loved it. The high energy aspect of it, the competitiveness of it. It was like you went in and played a game every day. I was always like, this is the closest things I could find to sports in the business world. But when I left Merriman, really, as soon as I walked out the door, I was Merriman for 8 years. And I kind of always felt like that was going to be my last stop on Wall Street. And then when I left Merriman, we'd made it through the 07-08 crash, but then came out of that, the company wanted to go in a different direction than I wanted to go in. It just wasn't a fit anymore. And as soon as I stepped out the door, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm going to do something different from here. So it took a while to figure out, but it was just sort of like, it was kind of like college. I loved college, but I wouldn't want to go back to college. I loved Wall Street. I don't want to go back to Wall Street. It was a very regimented life. You're up the same time every day. The market opened the same time every day. It closed the same time every day. It was extremely the market's different every day, but the job itself was, the same about the routine.
Right.
So when I found this small business, I just loved the idea of trying to build something. Sort of a natural underdog nature. So the idea of trying to create and build something from nothing and being that little guy was a great fit for me. And I liked this business. And I realized that even though I was an older entrepreneur, that I just loved the idea of also running my own business and where you do something different every day, because there's so many little things you have to get done.
Right.
every day presents a different challenge.
Sure.
And, the struggle is there.
Yeah.
I always say we're climbing the mountain. We're not at the top of the mountain. And now this is setback is certainly now it's a few more steps back on the mountain, but you got to enjoy the journey, and the journey of being an entrepreneur, I love.
Sure, sure. All right, so let's get to the matter at hand. Okay, your business, Nitetables, suspended for the moment. So you decided, I'm not just going to sit around and twiddle my thumbs and watch Netflix. You decided you're going to go out and help the people on the very front lines of this battle, the hospital workers, the nurses, the doctors, the first responders, those folks who are having trouble right now getting PPE. Tell me a little bit about how this was born and the GoFundMe effort, and how's it going right now?
Well, I think I'm like a lot of people. Well, I'm one of those people who watches a lot of TV, so I inundate myself with all of what's going on. Just my nature. I want to know every little aspect of it. But through that came just a consistent frustration with how the healthcare workers are being treated and just the entire management of this terrible tragedy. So I was getting the boiling frustration and touching base with a lot of business colleagues, like we're all doing through Zoom and on the phone, reconnecting with old friends and doing all this stuff because we have the time on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my business colleagues had come across the back. He had a connection to source personal protection equipment from overseas. And as soon as he told it to me, I was like, we have to buy as much as we can, as fast as we can. Everyone needs this right now. There's all these bottlenecks and snafus and stumbling and bumbling for why the product's not getting to the front lines. I'm like, if we had the chance to do that, I was like, we have actually a moral social responsibility to do this if we actually have the opportunity to. And we started right there. And I started a GoFundMe on Friday afternoon, and we're making our first shipment of product to our first recipient today.
Wow.
So we knew we could move fast, and we're like, speed is of the essence because every day people are being exposed.
Right.
And frankly, it feels great to have that purpose and to be able to contribute.
Right.
And have the time. And
tell me where that first shipment is going. I believe you said to an organization in Baltimore.
Yeah, we're making our first shipment. We're particularly focused on some smaller providers, smaller communities that are likely underserved and overlooked, where it's going to be harder for them to get access to the equipment. We figure that can be our niche, with also a focus on service to the homeless communities, another group that we think is going to get totally overlooked and left behind in this whole thing. So our first recipient is Healthcare for the Homeless, which is a nonprofit out of Baltimore. They see 10,000 clients a year, and they are serving truly an underserved community. And as much as they have some of their workers who can, and they're working from home, and they're doing as much telemedicine as they can, they still have the frontline healthcare people on site seeing patients in need in person.
Right.
And as I spoke to the purchasing manager today, and he's like, we're getting our PPA orders canceled.
Wow.
Probably because their orders are smaller. They're getting outbid, all the things we hear about. And so we're sending them a shipment of 100 KN95 masks today, and we'll send them more over time. But that's what we could get out the door today, and they should have it within 48 hours. And that's the first of what I hope will be many deliveries that we make.
That's amazing. All right, so I'm glad you mentioned the homeless population, because our homeless and our incarcerated populations, I just watched an NPR interview with one of the inmates from Sing Sing, and they were talking about being afraid to die. These are hardcore inmates at Sing Sing prison, and they're scared. So we know that both of these populations are being underserved. So hats off and congratulations to you for doing that. We'll put a link to the GoFundMe here with the post. And how can folks help you any other way? Do you need more connections to PPE providers? What do you need?
Well, we definitely, us and tons of other people want more connections to PPE suppliers.
Sure.
That's I think right now, the hardest part of the equation is accessing the supply. Right. Second of all, of course, publicizing the campaign, because raising money now is difficult. Everyone's worried about their personal finances. Even if you're still getting paid by your job, you're not sure necessarily how long that's going to be. So there's a lot of concern. So raising money, I think, has to be done in smaller increments right now, which we're certainly willing to put in the effort to do. And the third part is also we want leads on worthy organizations that fit the mission that we can be put in touch to talk about, find out their needs, and at least be a part of their solution. We might not be able to change the whole game for them and service them and give them equipment that'll last them a year, but this is one of those situations where every incremental piece helps. So we are looking for more organizations.
Okay.
One of the things I would like to do too is partner with people who can either do their own fundraiser, come onto ours, raise for their community, targeted for their community, and the dollars they raise through us will just flow right through, buy the equipment for them and flow it to them. And they're sort of just using our GoFundMe platform as sort of a gateway to their own fundraise, because we have the procurement and the shipping in place already.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're just getting started, and frankly, I'm learning on the fly.
Yeah. You've got to feel good about it. That's, I know it's not your motivation, but talking about the brand. So a lot of the sales conversations that I've been having with potential clients centers around what kind of brand story are you going to be able to tell? What kind of narrative will you be able to tell about your time during this crisis? What did you do? What did your brand do? How did you help your community? How did you move the needle when it comes to being my brother's keeper? And I don't think it's your motivation, but I think it's critical for every either personal brand or corporation to be thinking about right now. What is the narrative you'll be able to promote going forward on the other side of this thing? And we will get to the other side of this thing. But I know someone like you has that forethought.
Well, I saw watching 60 Minutes last night. They even did a blurb on the PP shortage, and they spoke with Branford or Winston Marsalis, whose father passed away in New Orleans. And he was talking about what advice his father would give him. It was like, he would be like, what did you do? Like, just what did you do? That his father always preached to him. What did you do when you could do it? And, it was things like that resonate. Like, yeah, I want to look back after this is over and feel good about what I did, what contribution did I make in a little way. So we're using the Nitetables platform. I'm using all the assets of the digital marketing, accounting, and different software that we had in place from Nitetables, which is idled. So I'm bringing along the company along with it to use that as well. But what I find also is that one of the things about fundraising, which is kind of new to me, is also that people need to trust that when they send the dollar in, that it's going to be put to good use.
Oh, yeah.
They need to trust it's not going to be, going into the wrong pockets.
Right.
So there's a lot of personal branding in terms of, I always felt personal branding was about being a trusted resource in whatever job you are, one way or another. Your customers and our business partners have to trust you first more than anything, that credibility. So now I'm in the effort of building that credibility in the fundraising world, and convincing people that if they put a dollar in, a dollar is going to go out the door and go to the right place, which is why it was so important for us to start the raise and get the first shipments out as quick as possible, because I wanted people to see and get that confidence that their money was being put to use right away, so that they would then share it with their friends and feel comfortable that we were a good charity to put the donations towards. So I feel there's a branding element to that, yes, I guess that's personal brand, but to me, personal brand, it's being trusted.
Yeah, it's all about the trust. If we can't trust you, we have a tough time writing that check.
So that's where this ties into, I think, where it ties into maybe where the business would be. And if and when the business comes out of this, I'll feel proud that the business, and hopefully there'll be a positive feel about the company, that it was put to good use during difficult times.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to continue to follow you, continue to follow your success. My friend, what a pleasure, man. Thanks for being on the premiere episode of the Brand Central podcast. We certainly appreciate you and wish you continued success. Again, we'll provide a link to the GoFundMe and we'll keep up with your progress. Please, continue to let us know so we can get the word out on social media. And if we need to come back and do another video and update the amazing progress, we can do that as well, man. Brock, thanks so much, my friend. What a pleasure.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for your help.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. Take care.